Welcome back to the Compendium of Discomfort. I haven't been talking about new movies from the cinema because I didn't go to the cinema that much because money, I don't have that. But I made it to watch a wonderful movie that made me very happy. That is this one. It's called Blue Fight. It has the Japanese subtitle Aoki Wakamono Tachi no Breaking Down, and this breaking down is a very essential part why this movie even exists, and it's basically a YouTube MMA show as far as I found out. It's made by a guy who's called Mikuru Asakura, and he's a MMA fighter, or now retired MMA fighter, and he does this show Breaking Down on YouTube, which seemingly focuses a lot on the casting of the fighters, and then you have 1 minute fights to find out who's the strongest and stuff. And he's one of the producers of this movie, and he's in the movie, and he gets pretty much treated like a really great guy in that movie. Some people don't like that so much. I don't really care because I don't know him. I don't know. Maybe he's a really great guy. And it just works out for the movie story. So what's the problem? It's based on a little bit his biography and a script by a human who's called Shin Kiyabashi. So he's a manga author, a novelist, and a screenwriter, and he has several names under which he writes. And he wrote, for example, the Kindaichi Shonen no Jikembo, so Kindaichi Case Files, which is one of the more popular and more famous detective stories in Japan. And he's one of the he's the writer here, and this whole movie feels very much like a manga story. It feels like there's a lot of story that used to be in a very long-running manga compressed to 2-hour movie, which I think is nothing bad here. It's more a pretty good thing because it doesn't get boring. But we will get to that when we talk about the story. Maybe you might know even the director here, because let's get to the director and the cast and a little bit. So the director is a guy who's called Takashi Miike, or many people call him Takashi Miike or something, but usually Takashi Miike. And he's most famous for pretty grotesque, gory stuff like Ichi the Killer or Visitor Q, Dead or Alive. So many people have still this image in their brains that he's the go-to guy for grotesque, gory, disgusting, questionable stories, and with lots of weirdness and violence. And he made a lot of stuff like that, but he's pretty well known for not enjoying doing the same thing over and over again, and not really doing a lot of sequels, even though he did some. But he likes to try new things, and he tries to challenge himself. So recently, he's done quite a bit of TV. He did the Netflix Onimusha anime. He did a Korean show named Connect. I haven't watched both yet. And recently he did a short film for Apple shot on an iPhone 15, which is really good and based on a Osamu Tezuka manga that's called Midnight. And so he does a lot of different stuff. And so some people who watch this movie might be a little bit like every new movie he has done in the last, 10, 20 years, because this really strange. Of course, Audition is one of the most famous things he made, and that was in the early 2000s. And pretty soon he left that behind and did other things. And he always came back a little bit horror here, a little bit more crazy action there. But basically, he did a lot of other things. And at that time, like 2007 and 9, he did 2 manga adaptations, as it's another funny thing when people now say, oh, he's just doing manga adaptations recently, that's so boring and sell out. He's been doing them forever, like Ichi the Killer is a manga adaptation. Holy cow. Yeah, people are weird when it comes to Takashi Miike. He's a brilliant director and still... No. Anyway, in 2007 and 9, he did 2 movies that are called Cross Zero and Cross Zero 2, which are very, very, very much represented and influential for this movie, and very important to remember that. Yeah, but recently, yeah, as I said, he did a lot of TV and some idol stuff and weird stuff, and he did a TV movie for the very, very long-running samurai show Abe Renbo Shogun, which just recently aired on TV, the new movie, which I didn't completely understand, but seemed pretty good. And yeah, therefore, I would say this new movie, this one here, by the way, it looks a bit like this. Yeah, that's the overall look, I think. It's a very nice looking movie, not drowning in teal and orange. It's one of the best movies he has made in years, which doesn't mean all that much because he didn't do that many movies. I think the movie that he did in recent years that I really, really liked was the third Mole Song movie. And I mean, that's already the second sequel, and it borrows heavily from the other 2. And I would say the first one is still the best in the series. And it has an absolutely brilliant scene near the end. But yeah, overall, this one is better now. So, yeah, based on his recent outputs, I would say this is one, or maybe the best movie in a long time. I still haven't watched the Great Yokai War Guardians yet, but maybe that's fantastic. I don't know. Last cinema movie that got released was Lumberjacks the Monster, which I think was fine, but not particularly amazing. And so, yeah, Blue Fight, best Takashi Miike movie in quite some time. So let's talk about the cast a little bit. The funny thing here is this movie is the first movie of a new production company that's called Yoake Films. And basically the idea was to challenge the traditional way of making movies and do something a little bit more interesting, a little bit more challenging. So they decided to choose the 2 main actors through a casting process where thousands of people came, and basically just putting 2 newcomers into the lead roles. These 2 guys are Danhi Kinoshita and Kaname Yoshizawa, who haven't really done much before. So we get a nice, great supporting cast, and for example, we have as the 2 mothers of the 2 main actors, Mariko Shinoda, who I mostly remember from the movie Tag, where she basically was still a high school student, at least in the movie. So I guess the actress was around 20 something or so. So now she's already in the mother role. But yeah, she was there, and in Reborn and in Miike's Terraformer. So besides the Miike movie, she worked with some very questionable people. They have Anna Tsuchiya, who I haven't seen in ages, most famous for Kamikaze Girls or Taste of Tea or Memories of Matsuko. Used to be a singer and a model, and an actress, but I'm just saying, she was in a diner by Mika Ninagawa in 2019. So that was the last movie I've seen her in. Before that, she was in Gonin Saga, but that was already 2015, so she hasn't really done all that much, and it's nice to see her back. Then we have, for example, Kyosuke Yabe, who was probably most well known in Dead or Alive, Crow Zero and Crow Zero 2, or Takeshi Kitano's Kids Return. Recently he was in Let's Go to Karaoke and Hentai Kamen. He did Hentai Kamen, yeah, but I mostly remember him from Crows Zero. And yeah, then we have Wataru Ichinose, who was, for example, in Takashi Miike's Blade of the Immortal, but he was in some high and low stuff as well. He was in Yellow Dragon Village by our beloved Yugo Sakamoto, same with a Janitor and this TV show Unfinished, where Sakamoto did at least few episodes. I don't know how many, I haven't watched the show yet. I will get to that someday. We will finish our Yugo Sakamoto filmography reviews someday as well. But yeah, well-known guy, and seemingly he showed up at the Crow Zero 2 set and decided to become an actor. Yeah, then with Konatsu Kato, who was in the aforementioned Midnight, and I've seen her in a very weird movie that's called You Are Still in the Long Tunnel, which is very much, I don't know, like a politician gave his ideas on Japan's issues, and this movie just is propaganda for his ideas, and it's a very funny movie, but I don't know how good these ideas actually are. Then we have a YouTuber, a Karma, who was in Baby Assassin's Nice Days and therefore in the documentary as well. And we have more Crow Zero guys now, because we have Nobuaki Kaneko, who was in Dyna as well, and a Crow Zero 2, where he was one of the main bad guys, and he was in the movie Bandit as a drummer, because he's a pretty good drummer as well. I think he's in the band Rise. But does some acting, and Crow Zero 2, and then we have, of course, Susumu Terajima, Ran, Ichi the Killer, Nobody Knows, Still Walking, Afterlife, Hanabi, Sonatine, Taste of Tea, Violent Cop, Snake of June, Kids Return, Brother, Dead or Alive. He's in every movie you've seen from the 90s or 2000s. He did like over 200 movies, and he's like one of the best known Japanese actors, I would say.
Must be pretty old by now, probably
memorable face, and he's...
What? Yeah, oh, he's just 61. I thought he's older. 61 is still good. Yeah. Nice. We will enjoy many, many more of his movies. Then we have Katsunori Takahashi, for example, from Outrage Beyond, Ring, or Miike's White Collar Worker Kintaro. Good. Then we have Takayuki Yamada, just a little cameo here. Of course, 13 Assassins, and of course, Crow Zero and Crow Zero 2, where he wears these nice Hawaiian shirts and does a lot of silly stuff. And in this movie, his cameo is the silliest thing that happens in this movie. And last but not least, another cameo, Tsutomu Takahashi, most well known probably from Crow Zero and Crow Zero 2. And I think, if I didn't miss here, he even plays the same role, or at least he plays someone from the same school as in Crow Zero. And so this all makes it feel like this movie is really, really, really like connected to Crow Zero. It feels like a spin-off or something. It has like the same mentality, the same spirit, the same level of silliness and action, and it's really, really good. But we forgot one actor, the big star of this movie, Gakt. If you don't know Gakt, he's most well known as a singer. He's very good at singing, and he does some action. Funnily enough, his most famous movie is not a Japanese movie, it's the movie Bunraku, by Guy Moshe with Josh Hartnett, a pretty fun movie from 2010. But recently he was in the second Fly Me to Saitama movie. So he was in the first one as well, but the second one is more recent. Very, very good, stupid, fun, and seemingly Gakt got his teeth sharpened, so he looks a little bit scarier. And while filming this movie,
he seemingly only drank water, ate nuts and some protein to survive, but he was like, if I eat, I will fall back into daily life and enjoy things, and I can't act like that. He's a really, really weird dude. Very fun, and his role in this movie is a lot of fun. So, yeah, I was very excited about this because, yeah, like I said, last few Takashi Miike movies were like, meh, yeah, good, still good, but it doesn't really feel like peak Miike. Whatever peak Miike might be for you, but for me, like the Crow Zero movies came out when I had a really, really strong Japanese movie watching phase, and at that time I watched mostly stuff that I had on DVD or Blu-ray, and therefore I watched them quite a lot, and I think they're absolutely brilliant, wonderful, lovely, and therefore this one is very much to my liking. So interesting, this whole story. We have two young men who get into juvenile detention, and there this MMA guy Mikuru Asakura shows up and gives a speech about following your dreams, and he tells them, hey, once you get out of here, you can actually fulfill your dreams. Like, he was a troublemaker when he was young, and he made something, and they can do the same. They can be like him and fulfill their dreams. And these two guys are like, oh yeah, that sounds good. We want to fight too. We want to join his show, basically. So yeah, that's the main motivation. And later, when they finally get to the audition for the show, they tell him how inspiring his speech was. And I saw some reviews where people got quite annoyed by this, you're so amazing, Mr. Mikuru, or Asakura, Mr. Asakura. I don't mind, because I guess that's what happens if you meet your idol who gave you inspiration to change your life or to do something better with your life. So why not? I mean, if you would meet someone who you see as a kind of role model, you would be like, hey, you changed my life, you. So why not? It's totally fine. I mean, sure, he's the producer of the movie, and doesn't matter. Anyway, so this way, from the inspiring speech at the beginning to this breaking down event, is enough for several movies or whole show. I felt like they have specific villains for each section that could be a whole story arc for itself. We have like four villains, I would say. We have 4 villains. First, we have the guard in the detention thingy prison, who is played by Mr. Ichinose, and who is pretty mean. And if you feel like, oh, that's maybe a callback to, I don't know, something like Crow Zero, maybe he is one who used to be the same and now is a guard, and something like that. Anyway, so that would be one story arc, how they survive prison, basically. Then they get out, they meet some girls who are somehow connected to them, and these girls are connected to some other gang, and there's a problem between them, and that would be the next boss, the next story arc. You could drag that out to a whole movie, and after that is finished, there's basically the audition, and there's one guy who gets introduced who causes trouble for our protagonist, and he's getting built up as another protagonist, but then we have Gakt, who's essentially the main boss of the movie. So this movie has a very weird structure because it compresses all these things into a 2-hour movie and suddenly ends at a very weird point that makes sense for the story. I will get into that maybe with a little spoiler, but yeah, I guess many people will be annoyed because it doesn't feel like the natural end of the story, even though if you think about it, it makes completely sense. But yeah, that might turn some people off, but I didn't mind. Miike has ended movies in much weirder places. What was it called? A Silver is maybe the weirdest of them all. And yeah, overall, I think it's a very, very good movie. It has a lot of good action, which is sometimes maybe a bit too chaotic, but works perfectly fine. We have good characters. I feel like the two main characters or the two main actors do a fine job, like fresh people, fresh faces. This one gang dude who's fighting them looks a little bit like the protagonist from Crows Zero, who was played by Oguri Shun back in the day, like similar hairstyle, similar feel, so even he made me feel like, oh, that's basically just Crow Zero again. But yeah, I like this whole attitude, this whole weirdness, the humor. So it's a pretty silly movie, like from small gags where like the two protagonists call their mothers to tell them that they are invited to the audition, and the mothers are at the same place just meeting, and silly stuff like that, up to the cameos of our Crows Zero guys, especially Takayuki Yamada, who is the spoiler section. Yeah, so it's a silly, stupid movie with good action and a lot of Miike typical things. So in that pamphlet is an interview with him, and he said like he's not a young man anymore, but this thinking of young wild guys who want to be the best seems to be pretty close to him, or pretty easy to understand. That's something he can yeah, what is it called? I forgot the word. Doesn't matter. Something he can feel, something he can follow, something he can present in a movie. So that's pretty good. It's yeah, seemingly right up his alley, and he knows what he's doing. So it works all very, very fine. The characters are all very fun. You have a lot of I beat you, now we're best friends manga mentality. This whole character that Gakt plays is just hilariously stupid and silly. Even though he's the super scary end boss, and his whole physique looks very funny because he has this huge breast, chest muscles, but seemingly no traps. I'm not sure. He looks a little bit funny, but if I would ever look half as good as him, I would be very happy. So no shame on Gakt. It's just interesting that he seemingly likes bench press, I guess. No. Anyway, so yeah, basically everything about this movie is very, very fun. If you like stuff like Crow Zero or other Japanese gang movies where people get drop kicked, you will enjoy this movie. Like I said, the story feels a bit weird in parts, but that's not a bad thing. And yeah, I would highly recommend watching this. Like I said, it's the best Miike movie in quite some time. If you like that specific kind of style, you will be very happy. Let's get to the little bit of spoilers. So, like I said, we have this other gang that tried to fight our heroes, and they joined Susumu Terajima's boxing or kickboxing gym and tried to become good guys. And now this gang comes and tries to drag them into fights, and they have some fights there. And in the end, the other gang loses their fights, and they become kind of friends because, especially there's this connection with the girls between them. And, someday the leader of this gang and his henchmen go on a date with these two girls. The leader gets kidnapped by Gakt's gang, and they're like, oh, it will be funny when his friends come to save him. Let's enjoy a little party. And this just happens before our two heroes join this breaking down event, and they are being asked, like, hey, please, can you help our friend, because he's in a really bad situation. And there's this legendary biker gang who took him, and we might want him back. So they decide, okay, we have this casting in a few minutes or hour or so. Let's still have a big brawl at the end. And of course, their friend's gang shows up too to make the brawl even bigger. But yeah, it's quite funny. They expect like 6 people there to fight, and 3 against 6 sounds pretty fair, I guess, if you have a lot of confidence. But yeah, they're more like 60 or so, and it's pretty violent, a lot of funny fighting, and of course Gakt comes at the end and basically destroys our hero just to get a dropkick and pretend to have lost so they can go home, because he said, oh, these young fellas have such an energy. I want to see where they go. This is One Piece idea of, oh, I'm still much stronger, but I'll let them get away just to see how strong they become in the end. So this feels like it could be the start of a really, really long-running series if it was a success. I have no idea how popular it is. When I went to the cinema, there were not that many people, but it was a late show, as it's called, so it started like 9 o'clock, so usually there are not that many people in the cinema. But the people who went there to watch the movie pretty much looked like the people in the movie, so they looked like they could be some Yankee or something like that. It's pretty funny. This whole Yankee thing, so this gang thing, has a huge tradition in Japan. I still don't know where it really comes from, but there are lots of movies and shows, like going back to the 80s or whatever. I think there's one that's called Bebop High School. I still have watched only the first one, but quite funny. Yesterday I did a podcast about the Double Dragon movie, which will be out on the main channel, but in German. So if you speak German, check over there. But we talked about the Kunio-kun series, like a lot of games. Nintendo World Cup is one of those games, which is basically based on kids at school who fight each other, and they have this typical hairstyle and the typical uniform. And yeah, there's a huge tradition. Like I said, a quite modern example, Cross Zero, of course, and High and Low. And this fits perfectly in there. Yeah, but Gakt is hilarious in this scene where his whole gang is like, are you gonna pretend to be KO forever, or are you gonna get up at some point? And he's like, okay, I'm still alive. It's just glorious. And yeah, to get to this weird ending scene, so our two heroes basically got there, but I think the main character, his name is Ikuto, I think, should basically just join and not the other one. But because Gakt broke his foot and arm, he's not really able to fight, so he asks like, hey, can he fight instead of me? So he fights this guy who before in the audition got set up as the main villain for this part of the story, and just when the fight starts, this movie is over. Which is weird in the sense as we got this guy set up as the next main villain and we don't see the story. But in a way, like, they both achieved what they planned to do. They got into this world of MMA, which they wanted to enter. And yeah, basically they fulfilled their dream to a certain degree. Of course, you could continue showing the whole tournament. I would love to see a full tournament movie based on this. But I mean, in the YouTube show, the fights only last like 1 minute. There's a 1 minute timer. Well, very short. Yeah, but I wouldn't mind to see a full tournament movie just based on this, and I wouldn't mind to see more. Maybe they aiming to be like professional MMA fighters and so on. You could continue the story for a really, really long time, but it makes sense to end it here, even though we still have this one guy who needs to be beaten. But I don't think it's a bad point to end the movie, just to say, hey, they got to this point, they can fight there, they can show how strong they are, they have a basis for a future MMA career. And yeah, that seems good enough to me. But yeah, I'm sure some people will be disappointed by that ending, which comes quite sudden. Like, when this whole gagged fight happens, I felt like, oh my god, this movie is already really, really long. And this still feels like the setup for the story. And yeah, then they get there and they're all beaten up and the fight starts and the movie's credits roll, and okay, now it makes sense. But yeah, it feels very strange. Maybe it's a bit like the unconventional writing with the whole like plots that happen one after another that would be, like I said, enough for several movies, is a bit strange, and that maybe confuses your sense of 3-act structure writing, where you always know, oh my god, now we're here at the deepest point, so we're exactly at the middle of the movie. Yeah, that doesn't really fit here. Maybe. Or it's at least a little bit off, because here the point where things turn bad don't really affect our protagonist. It's more about this other gang who suddenly, like, they feel like, oh, everything goes up. They have this nice date with the girls, and suddenly they get in trouble with this other gang. But that must be after the middle. There's not so much time left. So yeah, I would say it's a bit off from this conventional 3-act save the cat structure. I hate this save the cat book. It's pure evil. Don't, if you're a scriptwriter, don't do what's written in there. Even it helps you to get a passable movie, but it just makes everything so predictable. So yeah, I feel like that makes this one a little bit more interesting, maybe, like structure-wise, which is good. And yeah, it looks good. I mean, Miike knows how to film a film, and it's not drenched in teal and orange, which I like very much. And like I said, the action could have been a little more clear, a little bit more like focused, but I don't know how good these two protagonists are actually at fighting, so maybe it helps a bit to hide some weak points or whatever, but it's not so bad. It's not like you can't follow the action, but I would have preferred to stay a little bit further away to see more clearly what's going on. And this is pretty close to the action usually. And yeah, sometimes a little bit too wild for my liking, but most of the action in movies is, so that's not so bad. Oh yeah, and we wanted to talk about Takayuki Yamada, and I think it was in the audition process. There's suddenly a guy in a like wolf costume staring into the camera, and he gets kicked out, and then he talks to the guys, oh, don't we know each other? And then he takes off the hat, and yeah, it's Mr. Yamada. Really, really nice. I think, didn't he do Elizabeth in Gintama too? Yes, he was Elizabeth in Gintama, and if you know Elizabeth, it's really good. Just fits him this role. It's hilarious, and there's a hint in the pamphlet where they wrote that one of the guys from the Crow Zero movie didn't really know what he was going to play, what part he was going to play, until before they shot his scene. So I guess that's him, and they were like, you're gonna wear this costume. And yeah, it's great. I love the scene. It's so good. Yeah. What else can I say? It's a really good, really fun movie. Takashi Miike is back. I would love to see a sequel or two. I want more of this stuff. I want more gang movies in general. I love a good gang movie. I love a good juvenile delinquent movie. It's always good stuff. And if you have a gagged with sharpened fangs and as a biker gang leader who gets drop kicked, it's always good. I would just love to see more of this, even if it's just as a manga or whatever. Just give me more. I hope it's a success. I wouldn't be surprised